A film like Rye Lane comes once in a generation. It signifies so much that's underrepresented in film today in so many ways. For one, black leads in a romantic comedy is awfully uncommon, not only in the wider scheme of cinema including Hollywood, but it's especially uncommon here in the UK, which is a shame because we have so much black talent even just on this little island that seems to only ever get designated to particular types of films, which is largely indicative of a systemic bias and, dare I say, prejudice. But also, the culture this film flaunts and exhibits is disgustingly absent in almost all media apart from a few shining moments such as Top Boy or the Hood series, but even then these areas, these cultures, the people and music, it's almost villainized within this representation. The lack of representation is a problem as a whole, but even when it is there, it's rarely represented in a positive light. So Rye Lane comes as a massive breath of fresh air that not only involves all of this positive inclusion, but it manages to do it whilst being an incredible breath of fresh air with its visuals and story separately. So we follow Yaz and Dom, played by Vivian Oparah and David Johnson, as they spend the day with each other after they have the most unconventional meet cute. This stands as the true breakout for both of these fantastic and beautiful actors. They play these roles with such realism and truth that it's so hard to not sink into both of their personalities. There's so many gorgeous colours throughout and bold directing choices made by Rain Allen Miller, who gives us this film as her debut. Instantly she has become one of my most anticipated directors to see what she does next. She handles this story with such levity that when the weighted emotional moments arrive, they collide with your heart like a Bugatti hitting a tree at top speed. She plays with every single scene in some new way and it keeps the entire film exciting to look at and, if nothing else, incredibly unique. Luckily, with the runtime so short, it gets in and out before any of it becomes overwhelming and harsh. It's just long enough to be intoxicating. But it's not only the visuals that sell this film. The script by Nathan Bryan and Tom Melia is so incredibly natural whilst keeping up some of the surrealism aspects. It's easy to mistake them for veterans on the scene with how brisk this screenplay goes by and how natural it actually feels. But all these filmmaking aspects are mere shadows that follow around the greatest limb of this film, which is of course the aforementioned representation. I said that this film reflects its community in a positive light, and by that I mean South London and lower class England in general gets a really bad rep. We're underdeveloped and aggrieved with the reputation of violent crime and poverty, but when you really look into these areas, you find so much culture through diversity and so much life, colour, beauty and history. Seeing graffiti and battered brick walls reminds me of home. Seeing the squished corner shops and market stalls, the sea of ethnicities all interacting and building together, living and breathing the same air. This film is unabashedly proud of being from these areas, especially Peckham, which this film is based in. Now, I know people won't really believe it from my voice, but I'm from these areas. I grew up around these kinds of places, moving from city to city, town to town, avoiding bailiffs and creating a scattered address book and credit history. I grew up around the grime scene and loving Channel U, Pirate Radio, Deja, Choice FM, Rinse FM, listening to Garage and seeing all of these aspects of my reality be blended into this film is unreal. I alter my accent a lot and change the way I speak for the sake of these videos and for the sake of being accessible. It creates a persona that people can more easily relate to, and that often means hiding where I'm from and sometimes even being ashamed of it. I want to sound more educated, more like I know what I'm doing, because I know if I use my natural accent it just doesn't come across that way. But this film says fuck that. It's proud to be South London. The soundtrack boasts absolute gems of the UK not often seen in films. A particular shout out to Craig David, Fill Me In, but also Pulse X, which if you're not a grime fan then it's nothing to you, but if you are, it's literally everything. It's so cold that they chose to use this culturally significant instrumental in this film, even though the wider audience of the UK are not gonna understand it. I mean, I got literal goosebumps when Vossi Bop came on, and I know that sounds stupid because I know Stormzy is huge and mainstream now. He did Glastonbury, but something about the time that song came out in the UK, when I was a teen and the vibes were good, it just reminded me why I love home so much. I've since moved to much different areas, but the culture is still in me. I still love all these things and I get really homesick, and when I see my home reflected in film in this way, I can't help but absolutely adore it. The only thing this film was really missing soundtrack wise was some J Hus, Kano, Little Sims or Wiley or Dizzy or something, to be honest. I just wanted a bit more from it. Really quickly, from all of that, the restaurant scene is the funniest comedic exchange I've witnessed since the McLovin scene in Superbad. The flashback scenes are so creatively genius, and the cinematography alone deserves more awards than most of the Oscar winners. Because truthfully, I've never seen anything that so eloquently captures the cluttered beauty of lower class Britain. This film truly brings together everything that holds the backbone of our communities up straight. The entertainers like Michael Dapper, music from homegrown genres like grime and UKG, market schools, old school yardies, pubs, slang and banter. Hearing words like peng in the cinema is an experience I never thought I'd have. The relatability of all of this cannot be felt by everyone outside these communities though. But what's so gorgeous about it is, this representation is not all this film is. It's just simply a top line on a perfectly orchestrated symphony. It can be enjoyed by all and serves as an outstandingly idiosyncratic take on this type of romantic comedy. Because as a result of all of these unique representations, we have a film that feels so beautifully individualist. So if I can say anything, I can say that this film can be enjoyed by all, since it is guaranteed to be like nothing you've ever seen, but will be most enjoyed by the people who come from the communities this film shines a transcendent light on. So I think it's time to tell you that this is going to be my first 10 out of 10 of 2023, and hopefully not the last. I will be surprised if this does not ultimately make my top 10 of this year. So if you've seen Rye Lane, let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of this video, and as always, whether it's this deeply personal film that reflects home to you or not. As always, keep watching movies.